Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazal Ministries podcast.
Do you often find yourself staring into a camera that isn't really there? Or interviewing in a side room while the rest of your friends are actually off doing their work? Maybe you actually work in The Office, and maybe The Office and Michael Scott and all the things you've watched on TV are happening in real life around you. Our topic today is all about what if The Office was a real workplace? Today I'm joined by my friends TJ and TJ, do you want to say hi?
Hi.
And we also have John Transylvania, famous author, world-renowned, here joining us as well. Do you want to say hi, John?
Hi, John. No. Hello. How is everybody?
Good. I'm good.
Great. Friends, if you're on a laptop, please consider rating and reviewing our show on Podchaser or Good Pods. This will help our show gain recognition and be easier to find in other search engines. And if you're on your phone, please consider rating, reviewing, or commenting on our show on Apple Podcast or Spotify. This will also help to prioritize our show in these apps' algorithms. Thank you in advance for all of your support. So, as we get started today, one of the things we want to talk about is what would it be like if The Office was a real life workplace? So first, I'd like to ask both of you, have you ever had an experience at work that felt like The Office?
I mean, I've definitely, we've had some crazy stuff happen, but I think the crazy stuff that happens in my workplace is a lot closer to something that would happen in like Trailer Park Boys than The Office. So like it's the scenarios are there, but they're not, I don't want to say restrained because the Office is not really restrained that much, but less reasonable than what happens in The Office usually.
I want to say yes, definitely. I mean, I've worked in a myriad of different places and careers, but there's always characters at every place you work at. There's someone who's just really goofy and like characters that kind of reflect the people in the office. There's always someone I could compare them to in my real life workplaces that have been. Definitely.
Yeah, I will say like their fire episode, that's probably the one I can like relate to the most because we've definitely had a lot of fires in, our restaurant. Just kind of happens. The fryer is on fire because someone dropped a piece of ice in
on
there.
Fire.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Before I was working at a restaurant, I was a welder.
More fire.
Really fun prank for welders is if you notice someone is just smoldering a little bit, you go up and you start talking to them until they realize they're on fire.
You don't say on fire.
Yeah.
You just
wait. No, you distract them until they notice. That's so good.
Good.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was in construction and I've seen people catch on fire doing some welding. So yeah.
I have never witnessed someone catch on fire. I work in churches. That doesn't usually happen. I did see a kid almost set the altar on fire while they were lighting the candles one time. And that was my kid. So, of course it wasn't. But yeah, that happened. Now, I will say so I've always worked in churches, but now I work on a college campus and the office feeling is definitely more prevalent there than in a church setting where I've worked before because there's so many different personalities and things that are meshing together and you never know from one day to the next what's going to happen. So what is your experience with The Office? Like, how often have you watched the show? Are you like me? Have you watched it like 15 times in its entirety and have an obsession? Or is it just sort of a passing interest?
Well, I've seen the first couple of seasons and used to binge watch it on Netflix. And I've also seen kind of a smattering of the later episodes with when Michael Scott wasn't there and they had, Will Ferrell and a couple other people filling different roles. But I haven't seen the entire series all the way through, but there's a lot of moments that still live rent-free in my head, like the fire drill episode, definitely. And Kevin's famous chili and some other things.
I can't watch that scene. It makes me emotional. I can't handle it. Like, he's carrying the chili and he works so hard on it and he drops it. He's like so sobbing as he cleans it up. I can't. It
looks delicious too.
It does. It looks so good. And apparently, I don't remember the actor's name, but like, he really does cook chili. Like, he has a bunch of chili recipes and he works on his recipes all the time. So like, he actually made a pot for that scene that he had to spill.
I just felt so bad.
I don't know if they still have it, but for a long time, Peacock used to have the recipe in their terms of service agreement. So when you would scroll through and like agree, the actual recipe for the chili was in that terms of service agreement. So you could go and make it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Really exciting.
For me, I was actually like super late to The Office. I didn't start watching The Office until I was in college, which I'm 25. So that was like 2017. So like by the time I was there, it was finished. Like, everyone was all crazy about it. There were people with Thunder Mifflin stickers on their laptops around campus. So I just jumped in, binged it, and then I just kept binging it when I finished it. I just watched The Office like every day, all the time, for several months. So, I'm intimately familiar with almost every part of the series. There's, some things I forget. Like, it's a long series. But I do still really like The Office. And we've been through the cycle of like, oh, The Office was never funny. Oh, The Office is hilarious. But I'm a big fan.
I think The Office will always be one of my favorite shows. And I think partly because of the ridiculousness of it. So when I first started working at Lewisburg, where I am now, Lewisburg College, the first couple of days are nothing but training and going through like ethics training and Title IX training and all of the things that you should and shouldn't do. And then, with Office right off the bat, we're hit with Diversity Day, which is one of the cringiest episodes of any show ever and probably wouldn't exist if a new show were starting today. But the Diversity Day episode always kills me a little bit because I think even though we all should know better than the way that Michael Scott talks during Diversity Day and the activities that he puts out there, I think we all probably have someone at work that we could point to that would do all of those things.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, it's so funny. I don't think a show exists that's as good as The Office that starts out as poorly as The Office. Because I think most people generally agree, like, season 1 is not good, or at least not nearly as good as seasons 2 through 5, I think is.
Yeah.
I think Michael Scott leaves at the end of season 5, and then 6 and 7 are worse. But
I think in terms of like Diversity Day, it's a really good example of what not to do. It's almost like a, there's always a rule in the handbook because somebody's done it, and it's like the whole handbook or most of it was written during that episode. It's one of those really just, yeah, you said cringy. It's one of those like nail biting episodes. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that.
Yeah, it's so difficult to watch these days.
It's funny.
Also
Absolutely.
because of Michael Scott's like horrible hair. He's like balding. It's like, that might be the best change in the show. They like got him hair plugs or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he definitely improved over the course of the show for the better. He was rough that first season. I don't know what was going on, but they helped him out. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've got a special guest today, actually. Longtime fans of the show might be aware that we used to have a host named Alex Matthews, and she has decided to join us today. She wants to rejoin the show. Alex, hi. How are you?
Hi, Alex.
Hello.
Hello.
We had just talked about our history with The Office as a show. So if you want to, fill us in there, what's your history with The Office?
I've probably only seen like 1.5 episodes of The Office. I know about like some. I know, like I don't know. I tried it and I just couldn't stick with it. It's not my favorite.
See, this is what I was talking about earlier. The younger people, they don't like it. They don't care.
Yeah, there's a lot of dry
Gen Z
humor.
kids,
Kind of Monty Python-esque humor. Some people, it's not their cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's so funny because, I watched the show when it was out, like as it was coming out, new episodes each week. From the very beginning, we were watching that show. So maybe it's the like connection of the nostalgia of, when it came out, when it was happening. I was getting done with college and going on to grad school. And so it was a big part of my life. But still, I have at least 2 full watch throughs of the show every year, at least. And that might be lowballing it. But I've watched it in its entirety so many times, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, is that, Alex, do you think the show is just for millennials? Is that what it is?
It's okay to say yes.
I guess, yeah, because I don't know. I couldn't relate to a lot of what was happening in that episode that I was watching. I don't even remember what the episode was about. But yeah, I feel like it's more for like millennials that are more in like corporate office jobs, I think. Maybe.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I don't know.
Yeah. Gen Z's like very not incorporated, I guess. Like I know very few people with corporate positions my age.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not in an office. It's just not that common for us.
Yeah, I don't know anybody.
Cubicle workers.
Yeah. Even the corporations that, us young folk do work for, it's they don't do cubicles. They do open floor plans and like shared desks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're so far gone past what The Office was about.
Yeah.
That it's just not relatable. I still think it's really funny though. So I don't know. I've always been a fan of the drier side of things.
It is. It's a lot of because it's an office, scenario, and it's all complete shenanigans. A lot of dry humor and a lot of like unbelievable things happening inside this office. You're just like, there's no way this would happen in real life, and it's part of the suspension of disbelief that makes it enjoyable.
Yeah, but it definitely found its stride and became
It did.
A workplace that I wouldn't mind existing. But that's what we're here to talk about: is what if it was real?
Right. So I think for one thing, knowing any good HR department would probably have had several talks with Michael Scott before we even get halfway through the first episode. The dangers of how he talks to people and how he responds to people. And I think, though, there's an interesting question that comes in there for a lot of different places in which we work and reside and live is where are the boundaries between boss and staff person or employee or being friends with the people that you work with. And I think one of the problems for Michael Scott is that he really wants to be friends with everybody, but there's a power dynamic that shifts that. And they don't really want to be friends with Michael Scott. What's interesting is later on when he starts working a second job and is like serving as a telemarketer, all of a sudden they all think he's like this really cool guy and they're inviting him out to dinner, the people that he works with in this separate place. And they look up to him and they think he's great, but that's because he's not the boss. And it shows us a little bit about how work dynamics and relationship dynamics can shift how we interact with one another at work in itself.
Yeah. And it's so, like, you can tell, you feel bad for him because he just so desperately wants to have friends. He wants to be friends with the people he works with so badly. And none of them are interested at first, except Dwight. And he really just does not want to be friends with Dwight at all. He's like, yeah, I'll be friends with literally anyone but Dwight and Phyllis. But no, if it was real, we definitely, so let's assume that it was a real documentary. Michael Scott's gone by the second episode.
For sure. Yeah. He's been fired. He's moved on to other places, maybe, if he's hireable at that point.
For sure.
Since he's working for a company that has, standards, then he would definitely been fired pretty early on. Unless it was his own company. In that case, there would have been probably not just complaints, but probably some type of litigation against him at some point.
I think one thing that's interesting in The Office is maybe to note that there is next to no turnover in his staff. As awful as he is, he maintains the same staff for several years over the course of the show.
Yeah, there is.
I wonder
what they get paid.
They're like, yeah.
what they get paid. That's the question.
Has to be good. I think Peacock should put that out there and just let us know like what the salary range is in The Office. But there are actually a couple, if you go back and watch season 1, there are a couple of people like around The Office that don't get introduced. They're not a part of the mockumentary, and then they're just gone.
Right.
And that's pretty much the only turnover we see.
Here at Systematic Geekology, we believe in a few things. We believe that there is freedom in Christ to like what you like. We believe that Christian nationalism is a heresy. And probably most important that I'm going to talk about today, at least, is that we believe the best place to spend your extra cash is on the Systematic Geekology merch store. That's right. This is a shameless shill for our own products. We go through Creator Spring, and we have a few great products on there. Me personally, I'm a big like black shirt kind of guy, muted colors. But there's nothing better to like throw a little something extra on there with like a black baseball cap, the dad hat with the Systematic Geekology logo on it. That's a classic. I just really think if you got a couple, $30 extra, that's for us.
But let's just, imagine The Office was a documentary actually releasing just like it did, but it was a real company. Like they were actually just the company that sells you your paper. Well, how would you react if you were just tuned into it one night and the dude who just got you to agree to buy 1,000 reams of paper from him is putting his coworkers' things in blocks of Jell-O?
It's like, it's funny, but it's funny to think about, but in reality, you're just like, what cruel, twisted.
Like, what kind of psychopath am I buying from?
Yeah. I think it's interesting because, like, in my job, my department, so I work in 2 different places within my job. I teach, so I've got my faculty side, and then I have my student life side. And that office is huge. There's a lot of people that work in that space, but we're all close. So, like, those practical joke kind of things would be funny, at least to me, and maybe to a couple of people in the department. But if somebody, if you're not actually friends with somebody, then is it just bullying and you're just being mean to the people that you work with? Because I think that was the tension between Jim and Dwight the whole time, is that Jim was kind of a jerk to Dwight most of the show in a way that might not have been funny to Dwight.
Yeah, like they just actually hated each other for almost the entire show. Mm-hmm. They're just like, they have a few bonding moments here and there, but they're not like close until the end of the series.
Right. When suddenly they're best friends.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you find out there was a time, like in one skit, they're like, yeah, me and Dwight, we used to, go on all of our sales calls together and get so many sales. Okay, sure you did. I could tell.
Retcon the whole rivalry.
Yeah. But I know for a fact this company would either get shut down. You would think at least corporate would be like, okay, somebody has to get fired here. Or they would be losing business at such an insane rate.
For sure.
Or it would be like one of those companies that bizarrely like has a lot of media attention, is kind of like Jersey Shore kind of a thing, where it's like somehow they're famous and popular, or like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, they stay in business, or like Pawn Stars, they stay in business because of all the attention they get, and they don't fire anybody because they're attention getters, like Chumley.
Yep. I think that's probably what would happen today if we had The Office and it was real, is people would start trying to get their paper from The Office just for the exposure.
Yeah. Well, I think about, for a while there was that show Lizard Lick Towing that was big. Lizard Lick is not far from me, but everybody was, like suddenly we're all very interested in these random places that show up on, TLC and other, television networks that show a glimpse of like reality. There was a show even a few years ago about a zoo that's not too far from where I live in Rocky Mount that was called It's a Zoo Life. And it was all about their family and all the animals they have and stuff. And so people suddenly started visiting because it was on TV and they wanted to connect reality with what they were seeing on on TV. So yeah, I agree. I think people would just start buying tons of paper, even if they didn't need it.
Yeah, you'd just be like in the queue waiting for your call to go through the Dwight or Jim or Phyllis just to buy some paper. Or even Stanley. I would let Stanley sell me paper if it meant I was going to get famous about it. But I don't know. Would you be willing to work in an office where that's happening to you? Like you're just every day you're at work, you're on TV.
I feel like I would, but I'm an Enneagram 3. So if there's a camera, I'm like, yay. That's probably not the rest of the world.
I think I
don't know if I
would.
can do it.
I think it would be fun to do something like that. Like to work in an environment like that, it'll definitely be something new, something different every day. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I got it in me. Because
I feel the same way.
People are going to start acting out, right? John gets me. John understands.
Yep. And I would probably be like...
Because
I couldn't deal with the stress of like the craziness going on every day. I would take everything personally. I would hold grudges, and it would get ugly real fast.
Yeah, like being on TV, like I know you're all going to start acting crazy because we're on TV. I'm just trying to sell my paper, man. Like, please leave me alone. I'm trying to make a sales call right now.
Don't put my stapler in jelly.
What is wrong with you? Like, how many hours did you stay up creating a wrapping paper desk just to mess with me? Where's my desk, dude?
That's the one that always got me. I'm like, how much wrapping paper? Like, that stuff's not cheap either. And I'm a big fan of the dollar store wrapping paper at Christmas because it's cheap and it rips well. But you couldn't possibly, that had to be like the school, sell where they sell like the $20 wrapping paper that's like sturdy. That's the kind of wrapping paper it had to be. So there was a time and a financial commitment to that whole bit.
Yeah, and that was like, he's close to New York. He definitely like went Times Square, like big market, expensive wrapping paper, spent the entire night doing it just to mess with me.
Probably used the company's money.
Company money. Might have borrowed the company car. Despicable.
The environmental burden.
Yeah.
The fire drill episode.
Yeah,
that was real life, and I found out that Dwight had locked the doors on purpose, or the office Dwight, whoever the person would be in real life. That there would be some consequences. I'd probably have to I'd call the cops. I don't know, I'd be suing somebody. I'd be like, they locked me in there. My life was in danger.
Yeah, yeah. He's going to jail for sure. And that's not even the only time. Like throughout the show, we find out Kevin has been committing fraud for the past 11 years by inventing a new number that he uses to balance the sheets. Sure, Kevin. And also no one else noticed that.
Even though they have a 3-person finance department.
Yeah, their finance department is 3 people and no one noticed. Kevin's just got new numbers on his sheets at any point. See, Jim and Dwight also admit to committing fraud by inventing a third salesperson to get sales under so that they can circumvent their commission cap. So that's 3 right there going to jail. Dwight's going to jail on multiple charges.
Yeah, Pam steals staples from the office. At that point, you might as well arrest them all. Y'all.
It's a slippery slope in Scranton.
Wow. I like the alliteration. That's nice.
Thank you.
Slippery slope.
Thank you. But I do know if I was their HR person, if I was Toby, have you heard the theory that Toby is the Scranton Strangler?
Yes, that's a great one.
I definitely would have been.
There's the episode where they do the murder mystery night, and Michael Scott's like, there's a murderer, and then he just bolts, gone.
Yeah. But I feel if it was real, who do you think's quitting? Because they're definitely not going to keep selling paper. Like, there's not a world to me where Meredith keeps selling paper after she's famous.
That's very true. But you got to remember the benefits, because she was getting like Outback Steakhouse gift cards on the side. So, what are the real financial implications for Meredith if she quits?
Yeah, which is also a bribe to a salesman.
Of course.
Hired. Also, the person who worked for the company that bribed her, probably also fired.
I think Phyllis would quit. You know, she's got Bob Vance from Vance Refrigeration. She doesn't need the office money.
She's like the only normal person there.
Yeah.
It's true.
Phyllis is the most normal person there by far. Even like her weirdest thing. She was like reading 50 Shades of Grey in the office. That's happened to me. One of my coworkers was reading 50 Shades of Grey in our lobby like 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
Which is crazy. What are you doing? This is weird. This is a restaurant. What's wrong with you?
But I think some of this begs the question, you know, we talked about like the millennial thing and the corporate office thing. What would the office actually look like today? I mean, would it be more of like an influencer culture? Would it be like Instagram stories? And that's the sneak peek we get from the office. You know, is it TikTok? I'm sounding old. Okay. Like I'm talking to my students, like, would it be the TikTok or the Instagram or whatever other social media you young people use?
I feel like it would have started out like every other office, but then they keep trying new ways to be cool and to attract customers. So they do all these weird things. Like they probably start an Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all these things, but it would all be cringy and it would all be like Zoomers.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Alex, I assume you use TikTok.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I also assume John and Laura do not use TikTok.
There you go, assuming. You would be correct, but you assuming.
Wow. I have TikTok on my phone.
Oh,
but do you use it? You know how to use it. That counts.
I've opened the app once or twice.
Yeah. My For You page, all the time I get these companies that just are like manufacturers, like, you know, like they make bats or hats or shirts or whatever. But their TikTok account is just them going around to all of their employees and being like, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, name 5, whatever. I get those a lot. And I feel like that's what this would start out as. If they're rebooting The Office, then it would just grow from there. It'd get picked up by like some big syndicator on YouTube, maybe. Then they'd get the streaming deal. And by the time they get to the point where they're producing for the streaming deal, it's all falling apart. That's what I think.
They would just incompetently not be able to keep up with social media.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
That's true. Because it would be millennials trying to do social media stuff, be relevant with the kids. It's funny because with the kids, the youth, a few years ago at church, I had talked about setting up like a TikTok account for our church. And all my young people were like, please do not. And I'm like, why? Don't you want us to like be out in the world? And they're like, no, because you're going to do something embarrassing and then nobody will come to church. And I was like, daggers. I'm not that old. Okay. I'm old, but I'm not that old.
How dare you?
The audacity.
Hey, podcast fam. Want to stay even more connected with the show? We've got you covered. Check us out on Instagram and Blue Sky, where we're posting exclusive content and bonus videos and fun updates that you won't get anywhere else. From sneak previews of upcoming episodes to bonus content, our social accounts are the best way to keep the conversation going. Plus, it's a great spot for you to interact with other listeners and share your thoughts. We love hearing from you. When you follow us, it helps us grow and continue bringing you the content that you love. Whether it's a funny poll, a quick clip from today's episodes, or just random thoughts, you'll feel more plugged into everything we're doing. So go ahead and hit that follow button on Instagram and Blue Sky. It's one more way to be a part of the show and keep the good vibes flowing. Thanks for being a part of the family, and we can't wait to see you there.
I think there is like a worst like age range to try. Because I think like really old people making TikToks is kind of endearing. Like it's sweet at that. Like if you're like 65, 70-year-old woman trying to make TikToks for your whatever, that's cute. That's fine. No matter how bad the content is. But if you're like, you know, just an adult and your content's bad, and at that point I'm off. I don't know. It's a dangerous world out there. I have a very finely curated For You page at this point. I can't waste more than a couple of seconds, you know?
Oh, that's fair.
That's all it takes.
Swiping through them.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like if I interact with this for too long, it's just going to show me a bunch of this. I can't afford to.
Yeah. That's the annoying part of TikTok. Like you look at one thing and then your whole For You page for the next month is that.
Oh yeah.
So weird.
I've been getting so much stuff about tornadoes for like the past 2 weeks. Just tornado
I've been
content
getting
because
paranormal stuff for the past month because I liked one video.
yeah.
We saw you like this, so here's 10,000 of these.
Yep. There was a girl who was like a meteorology student, and she was just trying to put out the storm network that she was worried about for people in my area to see. And I was like, wow, that's insightful. So I looked at her page, saved that video, moved on. Nothing but tornadoes for at least 3 days.
Yeah. My wife had my phone, and she liked Dr. Pimple Popper or something on my phone, and now I get all this nasty, gross out stuff, and I'm just like, you have infected my entire feed.
I don't know. It's good.
What that shows us, though, is that people will watch and ingest anything as long as you find a way to make it entertaining, right? So maybe there is something to people watching the inner workings of a paper company, even if it seems like nobody should be interested in the inner workings of a paper company.
Yeah. That's like, it'd be kind of like How It's Made, except How It's Made is just, I think, just very interesting, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that stuff's cool. Or they could do like How It's Ran. Do a couple weeks at a paper company, a couple weeks in a brewery. It'd be a cool series.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the conspiracy theory page would be like Dwight if he was like a real employee person. It would be like all the weird conspiracy theories and things about different employees, and be real interesting.
Yeah, I really would be interested to see how The Office, because they're very apolitical on The Office, and I would like to know if that would have remained the case. Because I doubt it.
Yeah.
It seems like everything is at least a little bit political now.
Yeah, it's hard not.
It would be an interesting episode for sure to see the kind of the battlegrounds take place in between the little cubicles.
Yeah, or like Andy goes to a Trump rally.
Michael Scott tries to play both sides.
Yeah. Michael Scott tries to convince The Office to vote for Andrew Yang because he shook his hand, and that means Michael thinks they're friends because he shook Andrew Yang's hand. But man.
Yeah, there would definitely be, I don't know how they would interact with the political world. I feel like they had sort of specklings of it here and there throughout the show, but I wonder how they would address and work within the world around us today and the things that are happening.
Yeah, I would love to see Dwight's reaction to them declassifying the JFK documents.
Dwight already probably knew all the information.
Yeah, Dwight
I had this yesterday.
Yeah.
I actually wrote it. I released it.
Yeah, Dwight has been working a second job in the CIA.
I feel like I could buy into that, though. Maybe that's something Dwight could actually do.
Oh, totally. For sure. I would. I'd believe it.
That whole little group he had that did security at night that he didn't tell anybody about, but they would meet secretly. That was actually the CIA.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the CIA.
The real
and
one.
They're close enough for it to just be true.
It's true.
But yeah, no, I think that's about. You could rate the show. Do you want to? I don't know. It's kind of hard to rate, I think, just because they had 4 really, really good seasons, 1 okay season, and 2 seasons that were polarizing, I would say.
I mean, I give The Office a 10 because it's my go-to. I watch it all the time show. It's my comfort show. I know what's going to happen. I don't have to think about it. It's funny. It's still stupid funny, even in places that shouldn't be funny. But that's just me and my millennial being oldness. But yeah, I mean, obviously the front end of the show is better than the last couple of seasons, but it's a 10 for me.
Yeah, I will say though, I do really like some of the other managers. Specifically, not the redheaded one. I don't like her at all. I didn't even remember her name, and I've seen it a million times. Is it Lori?
No. Oh my
I have no
gosh.
idea.
That's going to make me crazy. What is her name?
Right? But Joe Benet, the CEO of Sabre, she was great character. Robert California. Will Ferrell's 2 episodes. So good.
Yeah, he had a good. Oh, Nellie Bertram.
Nellie.
That was it.
Awful.
Yeah, her whole storyline was crazy. And honestly, I feel like they did Andy dirty because Andy would have been a good manager if they didn't have the weird side quest where he went off on a boat with his brother and came back all weird. But Andy had potential, and I think
He did.
I think they did his character dirty for sure.
He did. That's character assassination. Straight up. They did almost kill him. But they brought him back, so, you know. But okay. So you think it's 10? I'm gonna give it like an 8 overall. There are enough good moments in those last couple of seasons for me to give it the pass, and the finale was perfect, I think. The best last episode to a sitcom that I know of. So I would give it an 8.
If I was going to rate it, I'd probably give it a 7.5 because sometimes the cringy, dry humor really does pass over me. I mean, I do like a good Monty Python, Life of Brian, stuff like that. But sometimes it is just like I can't watch some of the horrible way that some of the employees get treated, and there's no repercussions, and they just sit there in their office and take it. Sometimes I can't watch that. But at the same time, some episodes are just complete classics, like the fire episode, the Kevin's Famous Chili episode, and there's other memorable, things that happen that make the show super enjoyable and rewatchable. But I probably wouldn't watch the whole thing. I just watch my favorite episodes.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's what Netflix intended the random episode button to be for, and then they just took it off.
Dang.
But Alex, please give us your actual true rating as someone who's only seen a couple of episodes.
I don't know. I don't think my rating will carry much weight, but let me think. I guess from the episodes I did see, because I did see the one with the chili, I did see the fire drill, and I also saw the one where they did name cards or something. It's like a team building exercise.
That's the diversity day.
Diversity day.
Yeah, that's a terrible episode, but yes.
I saw that. That was the first episode I saw, and I was like, wow, okay. But I would give it probably a 6 or 7 just from those episodes that I've seen, because those are pretty good.
So what is it going to take for us to get you to watch the rest of it?
I don't know.
I mean, maybe not all of it.
Bribery.
You gotta give it an honest shot.
Maybe I should. Is it on Netflix still?
No.
It's on Peacock now.
On Peacock? Okay. I think I have.
Yeah. It's so hard though, because I always feel bad recommending something to somebody and then being like, by season 3, it gets really good. Nobody wants to commit to 2 seasons of meh.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know, even if for shows like that, I still push through because I know the first two boring seasons are mainly just to introduce the characters, set up the plot, and then by season 2 or 3, that's when everything starts kicking. So
yeah. So by that logic, you're gonna start One Piece and catch up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's already on my bucket list. I saw the live action, so I know it's not the same, but I do want to start the actual anime.
I feel like they actually tried in the live action, though. They were just like, all right, we have this amount of time to go through this amount of stuff, so they kind of truncated a bunch of things, but it was enjoyable.
Yeah, it's good enough. I'll watch it again. I'll watch season 2. But for us, I think we're going to start to wrap up here. I think we've done our part.
There's nothing in this agreement about rapping.
It's really small print. We do need you to freestyle for us. John, it is just on you this time. So I'll give you some. I'll finish what I'm going to say, and then you can start.
All right, cool.
Yeah. But Laura, did you have a recommendation for us today for the audience at least?
So I'm really boring and I just watch the same things over and over again. So I'm rewatching Grey's Anatomy because I haven't watched it enough. And so I need predictability in my life and I need to watch things that I already know what's going to happen. So I just reread the same books over and over again and watch the same shows. No, I do have a recommendation. Everyone should read Dungeon Crawler Carl, or at least listen to the Audible, because I'm on book 5 now and it is so good. That's my recommendation.
You said Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Yes, the books are fantastic. There's 7 books and an 8th one coming out, and it's just so much fun. It's so much fun. It's like a real life, if you like D&D, it's a real life I mean, it's not real, it's fiction, but it's like what would happen if you were in a dungeon, right? But I'm on book 5 after just like 3 weeks of getting into it. So it pulls you in. But you got to be a nerd. There's a lot of nerdiness happening in those books. So
Okay, I'm with it. Alex, do you have a recommendation for our audience? Your first recommendation since your return.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Let's see. Recommendation. My dad and I, we just got into this anime called Kuroko's Basketball. I never thought I'd be into animes that are based on sports like that, but it's
so good.
It's pretty good.
It's so good.
I recommend that.
It's so good. There's a couple. You got it, like Ping Pong the Animation, Kuroko no Basket, Eye Shield 21. There's not a lot of good sports anime, but there are at least like 5. And Kuroko no Basket's way up there. And Blue Lock now.
So good. I haven't seen Blue Lock.
But it's good. The animation quality kind of got a lot worse. But that's not what I'm recommending. I'm recommending, because Laura brought it up, that you don't watch Grey's Anatomy. I have an anti-recommendation today.
Did you just cancel out my recommendation?
Yeah, no, but you changed yours, so you still got one.
That's true.
So, yeah.
True. Like, actually, all the things that Laura said, don't do it. That's my recommendation to save it.
Yeah, that's actually all I came in here to say is Dungeon Crawler Curl is bad and Grey's Anatomy is awful.
It's just messed up.
No, but I do think you should watch Grey's Anatomy up to season 3. Get to the finale of season 3 and then stop. That's what I did. I think that's the most fun way to watch the show.
I don't disagree with that. Those were the best 3 years of the show.
Yeah. And it's a really funny season finale if you stop there. But I'm not going to spoil it. I want you to get there yourself. John, recommend us something good.
All right, let me make my recommendation quick. My laptop is threatened to die. So I recommend Split Fiction, the video game for PS5 that just came out. Actually, it's on multiple systems, I think. It is one of the first true couch co-op games that have come out in recent memory. It was an absolutely fabulous game. Me and the missus, we played the heck through that, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of different puzzles, a lot of really technical achievements I think the game achieved in really bending your mind, kind of like an Inception type of style where you're 2 characters that get sucked into your own worlds because they're both writers. And the whole theme of the story is that this AI company boss is stealing all the writers' ideas. And I'm just like, well, that's pretty topical. And I feel that personally because I'm a writer and I feel like AI is stealing all our ideas and our creativity and stuff. So it was a lot of fun to play. And there's a lot of like crack moments where like it does a side story and one moment you're a sci-fi person, the next moment you're a pig flying around. And it's just completely random.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of good things about Split Fiction.
Yeah, it's the same people that did It Takes Two, right? That came out a couple years ago.
Yeah, they're really keeping couch co-op market alive. So, yeah, I do second that recommendation, actually. I need to check it out personally, so I'm going to. But I think that's it for us. There is one extra little thing. The bonus question, which you only get access to if you support us on Patreon. And today's bonus question, we're all gonna answer it separately. If you could work with one character from The Office, who would it be? We're all gonna answer it. You don't get to hear it. Stick around for that. Yeah. Unless you pay us. If you are on a laptop, please consider rating and reviewing the show on Podchaser or Good Pods. This helps us a lot. Helps us gain recognition. It helps us become more findable in search engines. That's huge. If you're on your phone, rate and review the show. And we want to shout out one of our biggest supporters, Justin Vaughn. We love you, Justin. We couldn't do this without you. If you'd like to get your name on the list, $3 a month on Apple Podcasts, Captivate, Patreon, wherever you want. And remember, we are a chosen people, a geekdom of priests. So there's that.
Hey guys, again, thank you so much for listening to our show and being part of the Systematic Geekology team. If you want to support our team, you can do so by going to Captivate. And I know most people don't listen on Captivate, but it's in the description wherever you're listening. You can go to our website. At the very bottom, you have the options to either subscribe and you'll get some extra content and fun stuff like our bonus questions, all those kind of things that hopefully you all come to love as much as I love making them with our fellow geekologists on the team. We also are hoping to do some future D&D campaigns, stuff like that, and all that's available for our sponsors. But if you don't have those extra funds and you're not really into the subscription thing, you can also leave a one-time tip, just one-time thing to help out our show as we kind of stay in the game with podcasting, keep relevant with all the technology and all that stuff. And it costs a lot to run a show, and we appreciate you for your help. Again, thank you so much for listening. We value your time, and it means a lot to us that you give us your time by listening to our show and supporting us in that way. If you feel led to support financially as well, we appreciate that. Let's get back to the show.
Hello there, listener. Thanks for listening. This is Evan Garcia. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We just wanted to come in and remind you that this episode is part of a bigger network of podcasts called the Anazao Podcast Network. We have great shows like the Whole Church Podcast, Kung Fu Pizza Party, and the Homily with Pastor Chill Will. Chill Will, the podcast has sermons from our host, Pastor Will. Great sermons every time. The Kung Fu Pizza Party is Brandon Knight showing his expertise and his passion for everything Kung Fu films, and he dispenses a bunch of wisdom. Great show. And the Whole Church Podcast, where Josh and TJ interview people from different denominations and church traditions to pursue greater church unity. It's a great podcast to see what other denominations are included. And we just want to say thank you so much for listening. See you next time.